deduplication drama in UK says it started from Nigeria. And in stories outside the shores of Nigeria, United Nations increases sentence on 2 Serbian war criminals. Details now. Now we begin with this, where the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited today approved an upward review in the pump price of petroleum nationwide. The approval takes effect from today, the 31st of May, the NNPC disclosed in a circular today. The development is coming days after the government's declaration that it will put an end to the fuel subsidy regime. Fuel queues returned to Nigerian cities on Monday as many motorists scrambled to get petroleum products hours after President Bola Ahmed Tinubu announced that the government would put an end to the fuel subsidy regime. Mr. Tinubu on Monday, in his inaugural address at the Eagle Square, Abuja, declared that there would no longer be a petroleum subsidy regime as it was not sustainable. The pump price for Plateau State increased from 189 naira to 537 naira per litre, while in Kwara State it was increased from 189 naira to 515 naira per litre. The pump price in Kogi increased from 189 naira to 537 naira, while in Benue it increased from 189 naira to 537 naira. In Niger State, it increased from 189 to 537. In Adamawa, it increased from 199 to 515 naira per litre, while in Taraba, it also increased from 199 to 550 per litre. Confirming the adjustment in price today, the NNPCL, in a statement by its Chief Corporate Communications Officer Garibadin Mohammed, said it had adjusted the pump prices of PMS across its retail outlets in line with current market realities. Meanwhile, the Nigeria Labour Congress has rejected the new pump price of petrol fixed by the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited. Garibadin Mohammed, Chief Corporate Communications Officer, had said the price adjustment was made in line with market realities. But the NLC President, Comrade Joe Ajaero, who briefed journalists at the Labour House in Abuja today, said the Congress would not accept that. He added that the fixing of price is not what government could do unilaterally. And still on fuel price hike, the chief spokesman for the All Progressives Congress presidential campaign, Festus Keyamo, has disclosed that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu did not remove fuel subsidy. According to him, a section of the media is mischievously twisting the narrative to read that Tinubu's government has removed subsidy, despite President Tinubu proclaiming that subsidy regime was gone while giving his inaugural speech on May 29. Keyamo, who is also a former Minister of State for Labour, rather said that President Tinubu's administration only inherited a regime where there was no provision for subsidy in the 2023 Appropriation Act beginning from June 2023 and the Petroleum Industry Act, which is now extant and has no provision for subsidy. In a series of tweets by his official handle, he said, a section of the press is mischievously twisting the narrative to read that Tinubu's government has removed subsidy. That is not correct. He stated further that Tinubu's government has merely inherited a regime where there was no provision for subsidy in the 2023 Appropriation Act as of June 2, 2023, and the Petroleum Industry Act, which is now extant, has no provision for subsidy. He added, however, that those claiming to defend the rights or welfare of workers should convince the Nigerian people that the $10 billion injected into the economy annually will not jumpstart the economy enough to create massive jobs and even increase the same minimum wage they complain about. Meanwhile, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, today sought an adjournment of his petition challenging President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's victory. Mr. Obi's lawyer, Awa Kalu, informed the 5-member panel of the court headed by Haruna Samani that due to an unexpected development, he would be seeking for an adjournment until Thursday. Mr. Kalu, a law professor and senior advocate of Nigeria, further disclosed that 2 of the legal team members took ill. Lawyers of the respondents in the suit, Wale Olanipekun for Mr. Tinubu, Lateef Fagbemi for the All Progressives Congress, and Abubakar Mahmood for the Independent National Electoral Commission, did not oppose Mr. Kalu's request for an adjournment. However, the chair of the panel, Mr. Samani, reminded Mr. Obi's legal team that they were eaten into their allotted time. He said, and I quote, If you ask for an adjournment, you are eating into your time, Mr. Samani said. Subsequently, the suit was adjourned until Thursday for further hearing. In order for us to speak a little bit more into Peter Obi's lawyers seeking an adjournment because two of the major lawyers took ill, I have on the telephone Mr. Elvis Elimehele, who is a public commentator, a political analyst. Of course, he's also a journalist. Mr. Elvis, good evening and welcome to the World News at 6 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM.
Good evening, Esther. How are you doing?
I am fine. Okay, so before we go into Obi's question, I want you to respond to what Festus Keyamo said about the administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the subsidy regime. Initially, during former President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, the idea is that the subsidy would definitely elapse by June 2023, what was already in the budget. Remember that we're still running on the 2022 budget. The idea is that by June 2023, subsidy will elapse. The question is, why are we having an increase in palm price now? We'll be entering June tomorrow. So the idea is we ought to be running on the old price up until possibly the end of June. Why the increment now? And then we do not have alternative measures to cushion the harsh effects of this fuel price hike. What's your say on this?
Very pathetic, Esther. Because when the outgone government told us that subsidy will be off as from June 30th this year, and we have just discovered now that just the mere pronouncement of the president, Ahmed Tinubu, that subsidy is gone. Today, since yesterday, since Monday, the atmosphere of this nation has changed. I don't know what Professor Siamo is trying to tell us, that it's not Tinubu that remove subsidy. We are not, at this moment that we are talking, we are still supposed to be enjoying the subsidy, because even this fuel they are dispersing as 500 and something, 400 and something, 600 and something is covered by the subsidy money that the government has released from January to June. What we are supposed to be talking about from July 1st, before we start talking of subsidy has been removed. Not now that NNPC is so important of fuel, and the one that is even priding itself of regulating whatever is going on with petroleum has even gone to adjust their pump price. I just bought fuel in one of the NNPC filling stations this afternoon, sir, and they sold for me for 488 naira per liter. So one wonders if this was what the government planned, or this was a coup by Buhari administration as he's leaving, and he has already told the new government coming in that immediately I leave, make this pronouncement so that you have a way to adjust pump price. It's so pathetic, it's so demoralizing, because what I used to buy for half 16 liters, 20 liters this afternoon, I bought fuel of 6,000 naira, it was not up to 12 liters. You can imagine such. How do we continue, and how are we going to go about this? I know that by tomorrow, market women will start adjusting their prices of food stuff, because you cannot blame them. They also transport to their various markets to buy their goods, and now prices of the transportation has increased more than 400%. Prices of 100 naira before is now 300, 350. Prices of 500 naira before has entered 1,000 naira.
It's quite unfortunate, Mr. Elvis, because if we look at the ripple effect of this impromptu announcement during the president's inaugural speech, even if he disclosed during his campaign that the fuel subsidy was definitely not going to be part of his administration's agenda, one would say that proper deliberation and consultations was not taken into consideration, especially for the welfare of Nigerians, concerning the fact that we lack a lot of alternative means in order to, absorb the effect of this. Now let's move on to the real conversation, the main conversation I wanted to have with you today. The election petition tribunal at the moment is continuing after the inauguration. It commenced yesterday and today as well. Now apparently the Peter Obi as lawyer, about two of them, apparently the professor and senior advocate of Nigeria disclosed that two of the legal team members took ill, and one would want this particular election petition tribunal cases to be expedited. Do you think that the Labour Party are delaying rather than having to make sure that things are put in place as soon as possible? I mean, two of the members took ill. Is it enough to ask for an adjournment of the case?
Yeah, according to the lawyer, he said they are the two legal team, the two persons that are sick are very important to the proceeding in the court, and as a result, he asked for adjournment. One wonders what is why this sickness just coming in and why the adjournment, because we were told that they have 180 days. The earlier the better they dispense this matter, so that Nigeria will move forward and know the way forward. But one cannot query how the sickness came, because nobody is an immortal. No one is an immortal being. Sickness can come at any time, but I expect that Labour Party should even fast track whatever is going on in the court, so that this judgment can be dispensed and Nigerians can know the way forward. But let us believe that after tomorrow we may not have this kind of issues of we are asking for an adjournment because somebody is not feeling fine. Let's just give them the benefit of that this may be the only time that they themselves that are even wanting the judgment to quickly run off will be part of those that will grind the wheel of this proceeding slowly.
Now, the lawyer, the justice, Mr. Samani, disclosed to them that they are eating into their time if they are asking for an adjournment. Remember that the Labour Party, Party's, legal team said they have about 50 witnesses to testify, considering the infractions that were observed during the February 25 elections. And also for Peter Obi saying that Bola Ahmed Tinubu should be nullified, his win should be nullified, and he's stating that he was the winner of the February 25 elections. One would say that they already have all that is needed on ground in order to support, and evidence needed on ground to support the narrative or where they're coming from defending their case. Again, the question is that normally when the election petition tribunal sits, it usually takes a year it takes a long time. But this time around, Justice Samani, when the team was being put together, said they would try as much as possible to expedite the process so that the opposition political parties who are disgruntled and discontent can get justice as soon as possible and Nigerians can actually move on. Do we expect more of this as the legal proceeding continues, which may even come from the other parties? Because some critics say that it seems the Labour Party is not ready with how things are ongoing, because INEC seems to be ready, the APC seems to be on, anytime they're already on ground with whatever it is that they need. So do we expect more of this as the petition continues?
Yeah, definitely. The ruling party will call for their own, because the Labour Party has opened the door today, and I'm so surprised that they have to come from Labour Party. And I even have to thank the judge for reminding them that whatever adjustment they are seeking is eating deep into the time that everybody is talking about, that we want this matter to be dispensed of as soon as possible. And what happened today is just like opening the door for the ruling party to say, okay, they come up with one or two excuses to also ask for adjournment. But I just pray that Labour Party legal team should know how important this matter is to Nigeria, and they should know how to quickly amend their house and put their house in order, so that what happened today will not start reoccurring as the proceeding goes on. This was what Nigerians were asking for, to televise this proceeding live, so that we can be following, and where this man is not favoring us, everybody can go to social media and begin to remind the Labour Party and whoever is wanting to grind this wheel of justice slowly, that Nigerians are not comfortable by it. When I heard this one coming from Labour Party this afternoon, I was not too happy about it, because they are just opening the doors for other parties to do same as time goes on in this proceeding.
Now, still on the Labour Party's presidential candidate, he disclosed today that the identity duplication started in Nigeria. He said that the identity duplication crisis started in Nigeria. Now, this disclosure was made on Sunday during a Twitter space organized by the Parallel Media, which was monitored by, journalists and other correspondents alike. Now, you do recall that Peter Obi's associates had raised the alarm over his delay at the Heathrow Airport in the United Kingdom by immigration officers over a case of alleged identity duplication. Now, Obi actually said that he had been in the UK about 4 times in 2023 and that he resided there before he became the governor of Anambra State, and noting that the incident had taught him to be careful following the possible threat to his personality. He disclosed further that the attempt to clone his identity began in Nigeria. Do we see a case of sabotage taking place? You recall that about 3 days ago, the very early morning on the inauguration day of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Peter Obi issued a statement on Twitter where he says he sees more malignment, defamation of character, and an oppression on his supporters, and several stories coming up being cooked up by either opponents or other opposition political parties against his person to demoralize the supporters. Do we see this situation being true? Him disclosing that the cloning identity crisis started back home. Do we see that as a mechanism by some individuals just to put a stain on his personality?
Absolutely. You know, Lamidi Papa's matter came and gone. I told you this is the hands of this is the hand of Esau, or the voice of Jacob. That was what happened in that case. What Obi suffered in Heathrow Airport sometime this year is also part of the shenanigans around Labour Party by the ruling party. It is quite obvious. And Obi is talking about his name being malign and all that. This is where I want the DSS to swing into action. The DSS are supposed to investigate it. Obi's life must be protected. His integrity and image and his family must be protected. Nobody should use Obi's name, to commit crime so that Nigerians, to sell Obi to Nigerians as a bad person. Nobody will accept that. The DSS and whichever security agencies that is responsible in protecting the image of somebody and somebody's life as well. Obi is a citizen of Nigeria and he has the right to contest for any election, and he has the right to contest and be voted for. So anybody that is trying to come up with anything to malign his name, I want the DSS to swing into action, not just swing into action when they hear about the other ruling party. I've read that anybody that is against the ruling party, they go after the person. Anybody that is against any Nigerian that is creditworthy to contest as president and Nigerians voted for him and is seeking his mandate in the court, his name must not be used, must not be dragged in the mud because he said he wants to prove his right before Nigerians.
Now, Mr. Elvis, before he made his disclosure via Twitter, there must have been some investigations from his team, even if the official DSS body themselves had not carried on with the investigation. Because for him to come out, officially to say this via Twitter space, a space where everyone could have been part of the conversation, or everyone can actually have access to the information he's reading out there. Obviously, one can tell that his team has been able to carry out an investigation on that by themselves, and they were able to deduce that the particular cloning crisis of his identity began here. Now, let's go back to the $460,000 President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's forfeiture money that was made in the United States way back for drug-related offenses, and that, of course, is a situation that will be a huge stain on President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's personality. Secondly, also concerning other properties in the United Kingdom that seems to be owned by him and his affiliates. Now, some critics say because of these personality stains on President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, possibly this was, created, this kind of identity cloning situation was created to put a dent on Peter Obi's personality, considering the fact that it almost seems to be unbelievable that politicians in this part of the world would not have anything indicted on their personality running for office. Do you see that being a means for whoever it is that was in charge of this situation on his identity being the train of the idea in the first place, or the strategy in the first place?
Yeah, it is a strategy. They have been able to get certified true copy of those judgments from the US concerning the president of Nigeria, and now this is the time for them to actually prove it, and this is the time for them. It's useful for the court. So anybody that is trying to clone Obi now because of all this is trying to demoralize the judicial process, and Nigeria allow such. So what we are saying now is that they said it's a civil case, That's why they are defending. It's a civil case, and he did not appear in court. It was just that he forfeited the $460,000 to because it was a civil matter. But let the court interpret it and prove it whether it is criminal or it is civil. And what is the American law says about such thing? Also, if American law says no, he forfeited it because he doesn't want to go to jail, or it's a civil matter, or it's a criminal matter, let the court prove it so that Nigerians will know the way forward. Nigeria is expectant to see this judgment come to an end, so that we know the present president of Nigeria should stay long for the next 4 years. And if it goes the other way, then Nigerians also have the ability to say, okay, thank the judiciary for a good job done as far as 2023 general election is concerned.
All right, Mr. Elvis, thank you so much for being part of the World News at 6. I do appreciate your input on the conversation on the World News at 6. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Esther.
And now there is this unfortunate information coming up where today a fire gutted a building on the premises of the Lagos State University Teaching Hospital in the Ikeja area of the state. VOP News gathered that the fire incident caused panic among workers and patients of the hospital. The fire was said to have started around 4 p.m. The director, Lagos State Fire and Rescue Service, Margaret Adeshaye, who confirmed the incident, said officials of the agency were mobilized to the scene, stating that the fire had been put out. She disclosed further that the fire was minor, it has been put out, and an official statement is to be expected soon. On stories outside the shores of Nigeria, the UN War Crimes Tribunal in The Hague has increased prison sentences on 2 top former Serbian security officials. Jovica Stanisic and Franko Simatovic were convicted of training death squads accused of ethnic cleansing during the breakup of Yugoslavia. They will serve 15 years instead of the 12 they were originally given in 2021. The court's final verdict on the former Yugoslavia is also the first to prove a direct link between the Serbian state and a campaign of ethnic cleansing. Mr. Stanisic, a former head of Serbia's State Security Service, and his deputy, Franko Simatovic, a senior intelligence operative, were key allies of Serbia's late ex-president Slobodan Milosevic. The court found the sympathizers, or rather the spy masters, guilty of establishing training camps and deploying infamous death squads, the paramilitary units called the Red Beret. Now, they were also held responsible for involvement in crimes against, or rather across Bosnia and in one town in Croatia, as members of a joint criminal plan to eliminate non-Serbs from swath of land during the Balkan Wars. Following the judgment, Kada Hotek, a former seamstress in Srebrenica, whose husband's body was found at a mass grave, spoke with the BBC, sitting near a fountain outside the tribunal, and reflected on her decade-long find the truth. To wrap up the world news at 6, here again are the top stories that you just heard. We told you the NNPCL has increased petroleum pump price nationwide. You also heard that the Nigerian Labour Congress has rejected the new petrol pump price. Also, Festus Keyamo has disclosed that Tinubu did not remove fuel subsidy. Peter Obi again is seeking adjournment of petition against President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And of course, Peter Obi narrates identity duplication drama in the United Kingdom, says it started from Nigeria. And on to stories outside the shores, UN increases sentence on 2 Serbian war criminals. That is a wrap on the World News at 6 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. My name is Esther Mwachukudi. Follow our social media handles at VOP 903 FM. Good evening. Thank you for listening. Up next is the